Welcome to Andy's Garage. I'm Andy Phillips. Today I'm going to show you how to replace the front wheel bearings on a Chevy Trailblazer. This same process is also the same for any of the GM vehicles that follow into the same category as this. I'll put all their makes and models along the bottom, but let's go ahead and get started. To complete this task, what you're going to need, a nice set of gloves is usually good when you're dealing with the wheel assembly and rotors, all that, with some nice grips on it. A breaker bar. You're also going to need a ratchet with some extensions just in case you need it. You'll need a 17mm socket, that's to remove the caliper. You'll need an 18mm socket to remove the caliper bracket. Then you'll need a 35mm socket in order to remove the axle nut. And then also just an attachment that goes from 1/2 inch to 1/4, just in case you need to use the breaker bar with some of the smaller sockets. Obviously you'll need your replacement bearings, and I'll put on along the bottom where I got those, and I ordered these online. And then a nice set of jack stands comes in handy also, because you don't want to have the vehicle up in the air relying solely on the jack. So these are the items that are needed, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're looking in here just to identify everything here. This right here, this is your axle nut. This is a 35mm. We're going to have to remove that in order to be able to get to the bearing. But you have here your rotor. Here you have your caliper bracket. Those all need to be taken off. So what we're going to do is remove this caliper and bracket, and then the rotor will slide off. Then we'll take off this axle nut in order to remove the wheel bearing, and then we'll be able to swap it out. Now you'll notice here, I also have the vehicle supported with a jack stand. You don't want to rely strictly on the hydraulic jack. You always want to put jack stands as a safety measure. So let's start taking these off here so we can get to that bearing and swap it out. Using the 17mm socket, we're going to go ahead and remove the calipers. Going to remove one bolt up top, and then there's one at the bottom. We're going to go ahead and gently remove the caliper. Be careful because of the brake line going into it. So we're going to pull that out gently. Set it off here to the side. Or some people will take a piece of wire and loop it up. I usually just set it off there. And then now we can remove the brakes. Remove the brake pads. Now that we have the caliper off, we're going to remove the caliper bracket. It's held on by one 18mm bolt up top, and as you come down here to the bottom, here's the other one here, another 18. Let's go ahead and get those off so we can remove this caliper bracket and then slide the rotor off so we can then access the bearings. Slide the caliper bracket off. Set that off to the side. Now we're ready to remove the rotor, but you have these thread locks on here, so I'm going to slide them off, and then we'll be able to slide the rotor off. Just kind of twist these off. There we go. Okay. Then we'll be able to slide the rotor off. There you go. This right here is our wheel bearing that we're going to be replacing. You can see this one looks pretty rough. Set the rotor off here. Alright, well this is the bearing, and then you have the ABS line coming back here, and if you follow it up, it winds up coming all the way here to this harness, so that's where we're going to detach it. But along the way, and we'll get a close-up, you have some connector points that we're going to use a flathead screwdriver just to pop those loose. Here's a side shot. You can see where it comes out here, wraps around here, then comes through here, so we'll have to pop that off, and then it loops here, and kind of wraps back to there and then comes here to the plug. So that's all that we need to loosen up so we can pull all that out, because the new bearing will have that as well. So let's go ahead, get this bearing off so we can wrap this up. Unless you have a pneumatic impact wrench, which I don't, I'm just using the breaker bar, you're going to have a little bit of an issue because the bearing is going to want to rotate as you try to turn the actual nut. So what I do is I'll go ahead and put the lug nuts on there to protect the threads, and then just wedge it with a thick crowbar against the ground. That way it won't rotate, and that way as that turns, they're going to lock, and then we'll be able to get it firm enough so we can break that axle nut loose. So let's go ahead and get this off. There we go. Okay. Put that down. There you go. Axle nut is off. So the next thing we need to do is get around the back. There's three 18mm bolts holding that on there, and then that'll free this up to come out. Coming here along the back, I'll show you. You have, let's see here. There's one 18mm bolt down there. There's this one up here. And then there's one on the other side. Let's head over there. And that's the other one right down here. So I'm going to go ahead and break them off with the breaker bar, and then we'll be back. This front one here can be a little tricky to get to, as you can see back there. So in order to get the proper clearance here, you're going to need an extension right here to clear that. Go ahead and remove them now by hand, now that they're loose. Next, we're going to go ahead and remove the ABS cable. Go ahead and detach that, which is connected right here at this harness. So I'm going to go ahead and pop all these little clips off and detach that, so that way we can pull all that out. What you're going to want to use is a flathead screwdriver. Just go ahead and pop those out. The new one has those barbed ends that'll go back in there, so I'm going to go ahead and pop all of them out, and we'll be back. Alright, so that's all detached. This is unbolted. You can see it's seized on here, so we're going to have to bang that off. To do it, we're going to go ahead and put the axle nut back on it so we don't damage any threads. Put it right to about there. Take a 3-pound mallet and give it a good whack. And that'll start to loosen it so we can get it out. There we go. Let's knock this back out. Okay, take this off. There we go. And there's your bearing. We got to get this plate off of here as well. Break that free. There we go. And that's it. Now to put the new one on. You can see this one's pretty rough. Alright, so we have the new one here. I'm going to go ahead and fish the wires for the ABS system through the plate. And you're going to want to attach it just like that, so that way that fits right through there. Lining up the holes. Bringing that there. Now we're going to slide that on. Okay, line all that up. There we go. Give it a little tap here on the edge. Next, I'm going to go ahead now and just hand tighten these bolts in here. Get them in position to hold the new bearing in place, and then we'll go ahead and tighten it. Okay. Got it all nice and lined up. Everything seems good. Let's go ahead and put the bolts in. Alright, so this has all been put on. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to connect all the lines for the ABS, and then that'll wrap this up. We're going to run this here. So clip right back here that it clips into. Bring it around here. Okay, that's that one. All right. Attach the harness there to the frame. We'll take this, clip it in, put the lock on. Alright, well this pretty much wraps up this video on how to change out the front wheel bearings on a Chevy Trailblazer. As far as putting everything back, it would be the same way that you took it off, but if you do want assistance on how to compress the piston for the calipers, put the brakes and all back on, you can check out my video via the link shown above. Please send me any questions, any comments. I would love to hear from you with any questions pertaining to this video. As always, I appreciate all the support. Please like this video, subscribe to this channel. I'll see you next time.